Australia hasn't actually started living on this continent like they actually are from here, and that they have a responsibility of custodianship, and that the species that evolved here have a right to live here, and we should be able to coexist. The mindset today is no different to the mindset of 1788. When Townsend came through in the 1820s, he described this area as having dark chocolatey soil and being rich with fat cattle. And that dark chocolatey soil, it's gone. It disappeared between 1830 and 1870. It disappeared with the arrival of the man from Snow River.
Because horses are in these alpine regions, the alpine regions are a really sort of slow ecosystem. So things happen slowly because they're cold. And that means that recovery happens really slowly as well. Research over decades has shown that even with a small number of horses, the damage is cumulative. That also means that it's really urgent that we get on with removing horses and allowing that process of recovery to happen as soon as we can, because it is going to take a long time and it is going to be expensive to restore the damage that the horses have done.
The natural animals of this continent, they've got soft feet, they've got soft padded feet, where the foreign animals have hard hooved feet. You start realising the damage that they do when there's now the natural birds and animals of this country are becoming extinct, when plants are being destroyed, when the land is being destroyed. You start to realise who's doing it and what's doing it. Now, I believe everything's got a right to live, but when people bring them here, they're changing the landscape and they're changing the health of the country.
There's people trying to make a culture war out of it, but most Victorians, and the polling shows most Victorians want their parks protected and well managed, and that means removing feral animals such as the horses. We've copped a little bit here as a not-for-profit as well. We get the odd phone call and email with quite vile abuse. It's quite concerning. You're seeing some slight recovery. I guess what we see on the ground is less horses, which is good, and more recovery in some places of the native vegetation, the poas and the like.
So we're at Native Cat Flat, and I've brought you here to show you these plots that they're 20 odd years old, and they were put here to prove what horses do to country. This is what the entire area is meant to look like, and so the mountains were this thick, damp, wet, spongy, and that's looking the best it's looked in years because the horse density is currently low, thank God. When you come here and you see what this entire valley is meant to look like compared to what it does look like, that's worth it. That's worth the challenge to get here, that's for sure.
Species like the broadtooth rat and the alpine water skink and other species, they live in these really densely vegetated waterways. So they like deep sphagnum or grass tussocks and dense shrubs mixed in with grasses and herbs. They need those for protection from predators. So if that's taken away, the habitat's just not there.
The mountains were meant to be this thick vegetation. So when the snow lands here, it doesn't sit hard on the ground like it does out there. It sits on top of this vegetation, which allows for what's called the subnivean space, which is where the skinks of the mountains, they thermoregulate. They can go. So they need this sort of vegetation so they can be low if they want to be cool, or high if they want to be warm when the sun's out. And the broadtooth rats and that, they live in these sort of tunnels like this. They don't actually tunnel in the ground. They tunnel in the vegetation. This is the habitat that's required for our critically endangered species. And in this entire wetland, you've got only these 1, 2, 3, 4 plots.
Any of these native animals that wander across there are completely exposed to predators, and that's how we think those animal populations disappear when horses have those heavy impacts.
We need to get feral horses out of all the parks and natural areas, including state forests, as soon as possible. If they stay, it reduces those ecosystems' ability to adapt to things like climate change and other feral species and the like. The sooner we can get them out, we can start recovering those ecosystems and landscapes and start working towards removing all the other ferals that live in there, the deer and the pigs and the like, which are already being managed with a lot less outrage from some groups.
Once upon a time, our people was 100% land managers along with the birds and animals, but now we're less than 3%, so we've got to recruit more people to be caring for country and therefore custodians.
If we have any love for the place, we should. And it should be a no-brainer that we expect country like this not to have horses.